Hey guys, how you doing? This is Domingo here. I'm excited to actually share this one session with you guys today because a lot of people are asking about the tax and stimulus package that was just passed in the U.S. So for all my international friends, this is a great session to kind of take a look and see comparison what your tax package or any stimulus package that was actually passed in your country, to do a comparison side by side. But what we're going to talk about today are people who are affected by the U.S. So any property, any states and areas that are affected by the U.S. citizens. This is what we're going to be talking about today. So I do have a dear friend on this live. I'm thankful that she's able to join me this Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. I know that she has kids running around everywhere. Nikki Bushaw is a dear friend, but she's also a CPA, certified public accountant, and she's been doing this for many years. But Nikki, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Domingo. Thanks for having me on. And today is just the two kids, so a little less craziness in our household this morning, but
well,
still all a little stir crazy.
Yeah, and and by the way, when she means just the two kids, she only has two kids. She just takes care of her sister's other two kids. So it's not like she got rid of two.
Yeah, sometimes I like to get rid of two,
but Nikki, you've been an accountant for a while, CPA. Can you just quickly tell us a little bit about yourself so that people know where the experience is coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a CPA, and I have been a CPA for 13, going on 14 years. I've primarily I've worked across the board. I've worked in industry, real estate. I've worked in the banking industry, and then I ended my actual in being an employee or W-2 employee in a public firm, and I had some extensive background on the tax side, working with that firm. And then when I left that firm after having my second child, I decided to go out on my own, and I've been working with small businesses and on both the accounting and the tax side ever since then, and that was back in 2016.
That's great. Let me tell you, she's very knowledgeable. And if you guys are watching this live or even just watching the recording, please comment down below, and we'll try to get it to answer your questions. And we'll even do another session if we find that we didn't get to all, to answer the questions that you may have. But Nikki, let's dive right into this because people are just confused by this. There's so much, we'll call it fake news out there about the stimulus package. And so let's bring some real answers to this. So my first one is, what are the details behind the stimulus checks? Who qualifies, how much, and when?
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what you said is you're right. It's really hard to make sense of all this stuff that's being thrown at us each and every day. It's really hard to understand what it means for us as an American citizen and as the people, and what it's going to do for us in the future. And so really my goal during this time of crisis is to provide as much education to my clients and anybody else who's looking for it as I possibly can, because I truly believe in the statement of knowledge is power, and it's more than just having a bunch of information coming at you. There's a difference between having a bunch of information and then really understanding it and knowing what it is, what it means for you. And so that's what I want to get the message out, is I really want to help people understand what all of this means. So of course, one of the biggest questions on everybody's mind is the stimulus checks, and who qualifies, how much they're going to get, and all of that. And so the IRS has said that if you are a single taxpayer that is making less than $75,000, you will qualify for the full benefit of the $1,200. So the $1,200 is kind of their baseline, in which everybody's going to get, depending on some various factors. So single tax filer making less than $75,000, you'll get the full $1,200. If you're a married couple and you both together make less than $150,000, you'll get the full benefit of the $1,200 for each person, or $2,400 for a couple. And then if you are a single parent, you're taking care of dependents, you file as head of household, and you make less than $112,500, then you'll qualify for the full $1,200. In addition to that, there is, after reading through all the rulings and what some of the verbiage that they have in this package, at the moment, it sounds like the additional $500 that you receive is for qualifying children only. And that does play a factor because there are many people in our society that claim dependents that aren't necessarily their children. But at the moment, the extra $500 is per qualifying child. So that's one thing to note. If you're in the range between, the benefit will start to phase out over time if you exceed certain income levels, and then you won't qualify for anything if you're above a certain income level. So if you're a single tax filer who makes more than $99,000, unfortunately, you will not qualify for any benefit. Your benefit will completely be zeroed out at that time. And then the same goes for taxpayers that are filing jointly that make more than $198,000. That's where you would phase out for a joint filing tax filer. So if there's that sweet spot between the $75,000 and $99,000 for single, and between the $150,000 and $198,000 for joint filers, that sweet spot, in that gap, you still get some benefit, but there is a phase out. So it gets decreased for a certain, it basically gets reduced $5 for every 100 that exceeds that limit. And those are complex calculations that you don't really need to do, but just be aware that there is a gap of income level that does kind of phase out and you won't get the full benefit. So that kind of covers who it's for, and pretty much anybody that is a taxpayer will qualify. And in addition, there are some additional people that maybe aren't necessarily filing tax returns because they don't meet the requirements to file tax returns, but they're still eligible. And those individuals are some of the older citizens that are receiving Social Security. They might not meet the criteria to file tax returns, but they're still getting the benefit of these stimulus checks. Some students that might fall below the income level to have to file a return, but they're not being claimed by their parents. Those types of people are still going to be eligible for the stimulus checks. And let's see. So that covers who it was. What else did you ask me?
Well, the big question for everybody is when, right? When
Okay.
can I get this check?
When this was first passed, which I believe was last week in March, the IRS was saying that beginning of April, about 3 weeks out from the beginning of April, that they'll start delivering the checks. And I'm not fully aware of what their schedule of release or how they're going to be released is. Some of the most recent things that I've heard is if the IRS has already given you refunds in the past based on via direct deposit based on banking information that you've given them, then you'll get the refund. You'll get the stimulus check through whatever bank that you used to receive a refund in the past. If they do not have your direct deposit information, they will just snail mail those checks out to you at your last known address. If you've moved or changed addresses since your last tax filing, I believe there is a resource out on the IRS website in which you can enter in your new information, and so that they have that on file so that you can receive the check at the appropriate place. Okay. So that's about the extent I know for timing is approximately 3 weeks is when they're going to start being distributed, but it could go as long as out to September from what I understand.
Well, once we get more information, we'll definitely update everybody. And we'll play this week by week. And, Nikki has volunteered to come on as much as I need her to. So to answer these questions. But here's a question out of the blue. I'm just going to ask you this. I hope I don't stump you here. Do we have to pay this money back?
That is a really good question, because I think there's a lot of misconception around that. I think a lot of American people are thinking, oh, this is just free money that I'm getting. And it sort of is, I guess. It basically, what they're going to be considering it is, it's going to be considered a 2020 tax credit. So it will need to be claimed and filed on your 2020 return. And then at that point, there'll probably be some various calculations to decide, were you given too much, or did you not get enough? Did you not get the full value? There's so many different aspects that go into it. I mean, you think about, what if I got married in 2020? They don't know that. What if I got divorced in 2020? They don't know that. What if I had a child in 2020? All those things are contributing factors to tax returns and to getting this money. And so that's why they're considering it a 2020 tax credit to be reported on your 2020 return, and then they'll make that reconciliation when that return is prepared. But one thing is certain, that it is not taxable income. So it won't be taxable, but it will probably be reported on your 2020 return. And if you were to get a refund in 2020, it probably would be lessened by the amount that you received for the stimulus check. But those are just my assumptions. Those are just my opinions on how they're going to handle it right now. Nothing really has been set in stone on what they're going to do with it exactly.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely get an update on that as well. And because a lot of people are asking, because with the way that things are right now, $1,200, $2,400, $100, yeah, can really make a difference for a lot of people today. So
absolutely.
So now we know that 3.3 million people just declared unemployment and try to get some sort of benefits for unemployment. And I'm pretty sure it's going to even go higher. There's news out there about jobs being released on a weekly basis. So we're going to definitely see that number go high. So what do you see, can you give a little bit more detail about what people can expect under the expanded unemployment program?
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear what the federal government has done to help with this huge influx in people filing for unemployment. They've really expanded those individuals that normally wouldn't qualify for unemployment on a regular, normal basis. They've expanded to include those individuals. And who I'm specifically referring to are individuals such as myself, who are self-employed, or who work as independent contractors, basically those quote unquote gig workers. There are many people in the trade industry, plumbing, electrician, all of those types of trade jobs, that many of those people are self-employed, and they're not going into people's homes and doing work on a regular basis, maybe some emergency situations, but they're also, in the same situation as a lot of Americans too. So biggest thing with the unemployment, the expanded unemployment program, is that they've included those key individuals, those self-employed independent contract type workers. So I encourage you that if you are self-employed and you're thinking, oh, I can't go file for unemployment because I'm self-employed, well, that's wrong. I would highly recommend that even as a self-employed individual, you go file for unemployment and at least see what you can get. It's better than sitting back and wishing that you had later on. So another thing that they've done is normally unemployment is state run, so it's state funded and state run, and it runs through this whatever state that you're in. Every state is a little bit different, and how you get compensated by your state is also a little bit different. What industry you're in, those all play factors. With the federal government program, with the stimulus package, the federal government is now providing additional federal funds to the state to kind of boost those normal benefits. So you could see an additional $600 per week for up to 4 months with additional federal funding for unemployment. And then the last couple things that I'll note on the unemployment side is that normally you qualify for unemployment benefits for a 26-week period. Well, they've expanded that period of benefit up to 39 weeks. So they've given you an additional 13 weeks to claim the benefit. So now you have a full 39 weeks for unemployment benefits. and they've taken away any waiting periods. Some states typically have like a 7-day waiting period. They've eliminated that and they've waived that.
Now, do people, if you get turned down for the state unemployment, can you still qualify for the federal unemployment?
I don't want to, misquote myself on anything, but I want to say yes, but I would need some additional time to research that because I'm not 100% confident in my answer.
But but it's what's out there. It's one of the questions that are out there, and I'll definitely make note of it. And once we have an update, Nikki, you and I can jump on and let people know what they are eligible for and what the laws are reading out. Because look, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I don't that when it comes to taxes and it comes to understanding unemployment, those are left for professionals. And so that's why I'm having Nikki answer these questions rather than me jump on here and just answering what I understand. Right. So,
yes. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you can acknowledge that tax and unemployment and anything in that realm really is a complex issue, even on a normal, under normal circumstances. Everything around tax is very, complex and perplexing. And so, yes, absolutely. Don't take chances and don't take any unnecessary risks, especially during this time of this pandemic that's going on. Just be certain in what you're doing and consult with a professional if you have questions.
Now, for one of the last questions I'll ask, so that we keep these nice and short and informative as much as possible. What about for those of you that actually have retirement accounts? In the past, if you took out anything from a 401k or any type of retirement account, you got penalized unless it was used for an approved expense. But did the stimulus package and tax package that they just passed, did that change that part of the rules?
Yes, they have temporarily changed some things around accessing your retirement funds because many people are going to need to go to that resource to survive over the next several months, and it makes absolutely no sense to penalize them for that. It is their money. So what they've changed is that they have for anybody that's already taking that's a little bit older and that's already taking money out of their retirement, they have what's called a required minimum distribution. So if you're over I want to say if you're over 72, don't quote me on the exact age, I can't remember what it is, but if you're over a certain age limit, you're mandated or required to take minimum distributions from your account. Those have been waived for 2020. So you don't have to take the required minimum distribution if you don't need to. That has all been waived for 2020. So you can continue to grow that money in there if you have other means of financial resources. Another thing that they've done, which is going to be very helpful for many people, is that they have for anybody that takes an early withdrawal, if you're before 59 and a half, that's kind of their key age. If you're before 59 and a half, normally if you were to withdraw money from your retirement, you would get penalized 10% plus still have to pay the ordinary income tax on it. Well, what the stimulus package has done now is it's waived that penalty, that 10% penalty. So you can still withdraw the money from your retirement account. You won't be subjected to that 10% penalty, but know that you will probably still have to report it on your tax return, and you may still have to pay the ordinary income tax on it if that's the type of plan you have. Every plan is different, of course. And then if you do take money out of your retirement account, they are allotting you an additional extended time period to kind of recontribute those funds. So you have up to 3 years to recontribute those funds, and then there's no limits on recontributing the funds. Like normally there's a limit of a certain amount depending on what type of fund you have that you can contribute each year. If you take money out, the recontributions for the money that was taken out during the coronavirus pandemic, that can be done over a 3-year period, and there is no limits. And then finally, what I'll say on that is if you wanted to loan against your retirement account, they have temporarily raised the amounts that you can loan against. I believe the normal rate was 50,000 that you could loan against. They've now increased that limit to 100,000.
Wow. Okay. A lot of information, and I know that.
Well, I hope it's all understandable.
Yeah, and you guys are going to have a lot of questions, and I get that. And if you haven't, I want you to understand. You can comment below. We'll make sure we get them all answered to you. Nikki is a CPA, certified public accountant. She's a friend, and she's here to answer your questions. And I definitely appreciate you being around this Saturday with 2 kids running around and everything else that's happening. But your knowledge is incredibly important for people out there that are just reading the news and they're trying to figure out what's real, what's not. And there's a lot of posts going out there of people saying they've received their check and they received this, and and it's all fake news. But unfortunately, people, this is a time where we can use the right information at the right time. And so I definitely appreciate you allowing me to ask you these questions. And if anybody has any questions for Nikki, I'll put her contact information down below as well. But if you have any questions, make sure you comment and let me know. And let's get all the information out there. And Nikki, are you open to doing another session when it comes time?
Yeah, absolutely. Things are changing every day. From when they first announced the stimulus package and these SBA loans and all of that to even today, things have already changed, and they've already kind of started refining some of the requirements and some of the rules and regulations. And so I'm trying, my best to stay up to date on everything, but all I really want is that the American people really know what it means for them and really understand what it means. And that's what I'm here for. So yes, absolutely. I'll come back anytime you want and answer whatever questions that you throw at me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nikki, and thank you guys who are watching live and whoever's watching the recording. Like I said, we want to get all the facts out to you. And I look forward to having Nikki on future episodes so that we can get more answers to your questions. Until then, see you guys next time. Thank you, Nikki.